Day 5 of the Stuck at Home Photography Challenge. This week is going to be the Nifty 50 week, or in my case, a 25mm. And today, we're going to work with an egg. Stay tuned. All right, gang, day 5. Here we go. First of all, before I dive in, let me thank all of you for the effort and the support that you were putting into this challenge. I gotta tell you, it's actually really cool. The photography blogs, DIYphotography.net, they're starting to pick up on it. It's even got its own thread on Reddit. Olympus has been tweeting out and sharing on Facebook all the stuff that we're doing. So please keep it up. You guys are absolutely amazing. So this week, instead of doing macro, which I did all of last week, I figured let's make it super accessible for everybody. Almost everyone has a Nifty 50, a 50mm lens. So remember, I'm a micro four thirds shooter with Olympus. So the 50mm view equivalent for micro four thirds is a 25mm lens. So today I'm going to work with my EM1 Mark III, the new camera. I'm going to work with the 25mm f1.2 Pro lens. I did bring along my 8mm fisheye that maybe we'll play with at the end. Now, you're probably noticing some rather unusual props sitting here, so let me show you what I've got. We're going to photograph an egg today. If you don't know why the egg is important to me, please watch this video. It's an older video. It's before I started doing this YouTube stuff on a regular basis, so Joe is kind of really serious and really passionate, but it's a good video. Check it out. I promise you, there's a lot of good stuff to learn in there. So we're going to work with an egg. I also have 2 other LED lights in addition to this little table lamp here. I've got a roll of Scotch tape. I have some white printing paper out of my printer upstairs. Also, a good old-fashioned manila folder from Staples and an office pad with white lined paper. I ran down into the studio, brought upstairs a couple filters. I've got green, I've got orange, and I've got red. In place of these filters, you could use cellophane, but if you're looking to get filters, these are cheapies that you get on Amazon or your local camera stores for like 12 bucks for a pack. They're like super, super cheap. I also have sitting on the table here my Lumi that I used last week. We may try a shot with this. I'm not sure yet. So the goal is to make some interesting abstract photos of this egg. Now, I'm not going to go through the whole egg story. Again, watch the video. It's worth watching. But I have used this assignment many times throughout my teaching career, especially in my creativity class that I taught for college students at Muhlenberg College in Allentown. And I came up with a way to kind of frustrate them a little bit, to really, really push the idea that being creative is thinking outside the box. I'll share that with you as we get into it. But I want to point out to you that when photographing an egg, the cool part about photographing an egg is you've got a shape that is, not a clear circle. It's obviously not square, but it's smooth. It handles light really, really well. In fact, you can see in this video, as the light travels around the egg, there's really no such thing as bad lighting. But every little movement of the light creates new shape and different mood, and it gives it a different flavor. It's hard to go wrong with an egg, but you still have to work to make things interesting and creative. So let's begin with something really simple, really basic, and ultra low budget. I'm going to slide my lamp out of the way. I'm going to grab a sheet of the white paper, and I need to kind of make sure that it doesn't slide. I could use the Scotch tape, but I don't want to waste my time. We're going to do it quick and simple here. I'm going to balance out like so. I'm going to place the egg in the middle. Now, full disclosure, 2 of the 3 eggs, they bounce. The one that's right here, I'm not bouncing this one. This is a real one. These are Easter eggs that you can get at Walmart at Easter time, and they've got the same kind of texture as an egg. Like if I bring it up really close to the camera here, you can see the one on the right is the real egg. It's got a little bit more of a yellowish color to it, and it also is capable of allowing a little bit of translucency, right? Where The fake one doesn't, have any translucency at all. But I'm going to set the real egg in there. That's what we're going to work with. So if I pick up my Nifty 50 here, which again, 25 millimeter on my Olympus, and I'm just going to try just a couple simple frames. Now, what I'm doing, I'm at ISO 400 for these shots. I am shooting, since I'm going to be doing something where I need to use my other hand in a minute, I'm shooting at Aperture Priority today, which is something that I don't do a lot. But please understand that even though I'm working at Aperture Priority, I'm still thinking manually, meaning my front dial right here is exposure compensation. That's what's going to happen every time I do it. So I'm going, if I can get that to focus there, my front dial is allowing me to adjust the exposure up and down as we go. And I will be making compensations while I'm shooting. So literally just as it's sitting here, I'm still on auto white balance, which is what I've been doing for, the last week. Nothing fancy, kind of simple. I am going to go ahead and pick up the Lumi for a minute, turn this on, brighten it up a little bit. And now if I bring the Lumi just out of frame, now I can do some kind of really interesting stuff here. Here's the same composition. Back up just a tad. Ooh, I like that. Good. And you'll see I'm doing a composition where I've got the egg way off center, up in the upper right-hand side of my frame, and I'm using kind of a diagonal line so that it leads down into the frame. That's it. Let's just change the focus again here. There we go. Come down a little bit more. That's it. I like that a lot. That's actually really cool. Good. I'm going to stop my lens down just a tad because I want just a little bit more depth of field. I was at 4.5. Now I'm going to S6.3. Cool. Change the focus spot again just a little. On the back of the EM1 Mark III, we now have the little toggle that allows you to adjust the focus spot, which is great because it's so much easier to do it one-handed like this. Not that you're always going to be doing something like that one-handed, but certainly there are times, like right now, where it comes in handy. Now, one of the benefits, not to make an Olympus commercial, but one of the benefits of working with the Olympus cameras here is that they're incredibly good in low light focusing because of the 121 focus points that all have the crosshair focus. So, I'm working with a round object here. I've got no vertical and horizontal lines in this, and this thing grabs focus amazingly well. Simple, basic, not a lot of, fancy gear to that. A piece of paper, a Lumi, a table lamp, boom, done, right? So I'm going to turn the Lumi off. And now let's get to the shots that I really wanted to do. So the assignment that I gave the college kids was that, so listen closely, language counts here. They had to photograph an egg. In fact, let me put down the real egg. Let's use the fake egg. They had to photograph an egg and make 5 different images of the egg. But here's the challenge. Once they placed the egg, they can't change the placement of the egg, right? So that's the assignment. 5 images of the egg. Once you've placed the egg, you can't change the placement of the egg. So I would give them 20 minutes in class. They would go ahead and they would do this assignment. And, I like to talk trash every now and then. So I would, tell them, it's like, all right, I'm going to give you guys 20 minutes. And then when we're done, I'm going to do the assignment in 5. And I'll come up with something that none of you thinks of. And of course, they're in a game for the challenge. They're ready to go. So they would take their 20 minutes, they would do their pictures. And then while they were processing, I would get somebody to pull out the stopwatch on their phone, start the stopwatch and say, go. And then what I would do is I would take a piece of Scotch tape. I would run over to the printer in the classroom, grab a sheet of paper and kind of roll it up into a cone like so, and try to get it so that it flares out nice and wide. I'll show you in just a second here. We're going to let it open up a little bit more, a little more even, like to about there. And then I'm going to tape it in place, right? So now I've got this cone, Let me just make sure I can see the back of the screen here. There we go. I've got a cone that I've made with the paper. It's taped. And now what I'm going to do, we'll work with the real egg for this shot. I'm going to put the egg down into the cone. You see it there, right? So that is the placement of my egg. For the 5 shots, I will not change the placement, okay? In fact, let me grab it so it's not going to move. There we go. Right, now, pick up my camera, pick up my egg and my cone, and we will start creating here. So I'm basically aiming the camera down into the paper cone. That's it. And what I'm going to create as I do this is different compositions. Right now, I'm working just with this light. I'm not going to change anything there. I am curious if I aim it towards my window. So there's a window behind the camera, like 3 big windows here. I'm just going to work with those window lights for a second and see what we get here. But I'm going to have to open things up quite a bit. Oh, that's kind of cool. Digging that a lot. Change that angle a little bit there. There we go. Going to change the composition. Cool. I'm going to get as close for this one as the camera will let me focus. Neat. Oh, there's a diagonal that I like just by twisting. Good. Cool. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take the top off of this lamp. And this is just a little bedside lamp. You know, it's like a Walmart special that was in our guest room. Okay. Yeah, cool. Really neat texture on the paper there. That's it. Yeah, it kind of starts to glow here. Good. All right. Now, I'm going to cheat a little bit today, right? And I want to show you what will happen if I use some different materials. So next, I'm going to go ahead and still do a piece of paper, but take a piece of notebook or a notepad paper. Do the same thing. I'm going to curl it up. So this has lines in it, right? Oh, wow. With those lines, that's like really trippy. So let's see here. Okay, stop my lens down a little bit more. And again, this is one of those things where, you know, with these lines leading in, you have some options in terms of depth of field. Do you want a lot? Do you want a little? How much do you want? It's important to pay attention to that. You know, it's like how much of the line do you want in focus or not in focus, right? So I would like to have a little bit more light, a little brighter. So I'm going to go ahead, turn this light off a second. So you can see this is like a very yellowy color, tungsten, okay? All right, so let's see what happens with this. I'm not sure that I'm really going to enjoy this too much, but we'll see, right? Let's give it a shot. Oh, okay, so that's actually kind of cool here. So let's see, this is very fiery. It's almost like, you know, I'm shooting into the sun here. Wow. Just want to take a peek really quick with one here. Oh yeah, all right. That's cool, but you know what it needs? It needs more yellow, believe it or not. So I'm going to take the egg out of that, and I'm going to come over here with my manila folder. So it's got a Staples logo on the inside, so we want to move that to the outside because this is more dense, so it's going to knock out a lot of light, but it's also going to really play with the, oh my goodness, it does. Look at those colors, okay? That's cool. That's really cool. Awesome. Now, I want to go ahead, just because I don't know what it'll do, I'm going to try one more light, and then I'm going to give you a little bonus here. And we're going to create something that's like a special effect, but we're going to do it in camera. So let's try it with this one. And it's actually, that's going to be about the same. Yeah, it is. So what I do want to do, now that I am onto a brighter light, I'm going to go back to my original paper. Okay, good. And I've got one other idea here to see if I can get this to work. Let's see, these lights may not be bright enough to do it. There we go. So let's try that. Oh yeah, that's kind of what I was after there. Okay, I promised you a quick bonus. So you ready? The one thing that I have on the table here that I have not used is the colored gels. So what we're gonna do, set that egg down so I don't drop it. I think we'll try with green. Green is a color that I don't use a lot. It's not my favorite color. So I'll purposely use the green today. And I'm gonna make a cone just like I've been doing with all the rest of the stuff. I am going to tape it off just like I've been doing with all the others. There we go. I'm gonna put the egg down into the cone. There we go. So you can see we've got the egg down in there, which means we now have green eggs. Couldn't help myself, right? So let's take that though. Whoop. It's a little slippery in this filter. So again, I'm working with a real egg, right? This is the fake one. No magic here, okay? So let's bring that down here. Got to get my hands on it. There we go. All right, I'm gonna hold that there like so. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna squeeze the filter a little bit above where the egg is. So here, so that you guys can see this. Put it down here. I'm gonna hold it like right there so you can see is that showing up? I'm just above the egg, right? And the reason for doing that, whoops. Let me get this to where I can hide the tape a little bit better. There we go. What I'm going to be able to do now is make it look like the egg is floating. And there you have it. A floating green egg. How cool is that, huh? So gang, I'm done shooting. Let's head up to the office and see what develops. Okay, gang, we're back in the office, and I've got 204 frames for today. Again, that's still a little bit late for what I would normally shoot, but for the sake of getting these videos out, I'm not spending quite as much time shooting, right? So just to give you guys a sense of what's here, here's everything that I narrowed it down to. So 55 frames that I selected along the way. You can see we've got a fair amount of variety. Again, I'm going to look to pick one shot, but I'll probably process 5 or 6 like I've been doing for the last week. So here, again, everything from the shoot. There's that floating green egg. Pretty cool, huh? All right. So from there, I narrowed it down to 6 that we're going to go with. Here they are, right here. These are the 6 that I'm going to process. So, as always, let's open these guys up in Camera Raw. And as soon as Camera Raw is open, I'm going to select all of them. Remember, have a system, habits. Vibrance, 30. Saturation is going to be 5. I'm still going to go 15 on the clarity as a starting point. I will do 60 on my sharpening, and I will check off remove chromatic aberration and enable profile corrections, just like I've been doing. Now I'm going to come back to this first frame, and a couple of things that you need to understand about these are still abstracts, right? So even though it's an egg, we know that an egg's white, but an egg is also a very iconic, very instantly recognizable shape. So for me, at least, I have no problem doing crazy things with the color just to see what happens, right? So let me move this over a little bit, and I'm going to come back here, and just for the heck of it, I shot on the auto white balance, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just change the white balance settings, because remember I was using, kind of a tungsten light, so I'm just curious to see what we'll get. Ooh, look at that. So we go to tungsten, so it wasn't a tungsten light, it was a daylight balance bulb, as it turns out, and now I can grab those yellows potentially and the oranges, and I can get them to glow a little bit more. I'm really liking that. And now I'm going to come back, and I'm still going to play with that dehaze just a little bit, because look how it now brings the paper texture out. So I have the smooth roundness of the egg, but I've also got that texture of the paper, which is kind of interesting, and it's not terribly obvious what that's all about. And I'm going to go ahead and bring those highlights up so they glow a little bit more. Boom. I'm done with that one. From a cropping standpoint, this one pretty much needs to be, it simply needs to be a vertical crop.
And so that being said, it also doesn't need to be 16 by 9. So I'm just going to do the normal cropping mode here. And we'll crop a little bit out of the file. But you know what? Not much. I'm going to come right into there. Something that I don't normally do, I'm going to leave my subject dead center there. I'm kind of really enjoying that. So that one's done. Next up, this is another one where we can do some interesting stuff. I'm curious just to see what will happen if I click auto. And you know what? That's actually kind of cool. I don't know that that's what I want though. So let's go back to the default. Same thing again. Let's try some different, let's try some different white balance settings to see what we get. And, you know, sadly that tungsten is kind of looking cool there. So I'm thinking maybe. Ooh, look at that. And then let's hit the dehaze on. There it is. There we go. Now that's kind of cool. Bring the highlights down. You know what though? I like the glow. I do. But I think it's the blacks we need to pull down a little bit. Yeah, that's gonna makes it kind of almost unnatural. Yeah, look at that. Look at the color. Woo. Okay, I like that. Neat. So there we go. Let's see now. Let's go ahead and hit our 16 by 9 because again, I'm going to do these, you know, my normal 16 by 9 crop to go into a video. Cool. This one, I got to tell you, I like the airiness of this. So I'm curious what's going to, see if I play with that dehaze at all. That's just not cutting it. Bring my highlights down just ever so slight. Blacks in just a tad. And yeah, we're gonna leave the white balance as shot. And you know, I'm curious here. What if we go to Adobe Monochrome for this? And now I'll play with that contrast a little bit more here. And if this is one of those rare times, I'm actually going to go ahead and hit the contrast slider and see what it does. You see how I'm not, right about in there. It's kind of neat. You know, I'm actually really liking what I'm seeing here. So I think for this one, I want to give it as much texture as possible. And even darken, yeah, darken just a tad. And then I'm going to leave the egg high in the frame. I am going to crop in just a tad here, just to move it over just a little bit. Yeah, I like that. I like that. That way I have that sweep of lines coming down. That's kind of working for me. Cool. This one's a contender for shot of the day. It's definitely a contender. And I'm not going to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know how much I need to do to this. That's the thing here. Like, I'm afraid that almost anything I do with this, oh wow. So that's kind of neat. So pull those highlights down a little bit more. Shadows up just a tad more. Throw a little bit more texture in. Oh yeah. Okay. I mean, that's one of those shots, like, never in a million years is anybody figuring out that one's an egg, right? So, and then from a composition standpoint, right there, a lot of negative space in the upper left, digging that. All right, this one here, what can we do with some interesting color? We haven't done yellow yet, right? I haven't done any yellow images. We'll get a little bit of yellow and orange in there. How's that? So, bring my sit. And now you know what? The more I'm looking at that, I'm not digging that at all. So let's go back. Hey, that happens, right? It totally happens. I actually liked what we did with the black and white before. So I want to try, yeah, see, there it is. We're going to go for some kind of classic black and white. Make it like really low key. Yeah. And let's go ahead and hit the crop here. And then I think with this one, a little bit off center. Boom. And now our floating green egg. So right out of the box, I can tell you, it's kind of cool that it's floating. I'm not happy what I did with the hands here. I certainly should have spent a little bit more time with this, but it's our bonus. So it's okay. We're going to play with it. So the first thing I actually want to do, I'm going to do this one backwards. I want to crop it first to figure out, like, how am I going to make this one work? So actually, let's just take the restrictions off for the 16 by 9. Oops. And not thinking that at all. Maybe we do the 16 by 9. So let's see. I actually think I can make that work. I'm going to do a little bit of dodging and burning. So let's hit some of that dehaze. I definitely want to pull a little bit of the blue out and get those greens green, right? Like really green. That's it. Good. Make those I can't pull the highlights down. See how they start to turn blue? I don't want that to happen. I'd rather have it stay the white color that it is. I am going to go in to hue, saturation, luminance, pull out my yellows a little bit, and then raise the luminance on it, just like get a hint of white in the egg. That's it, okay? More than anything, I wanted to show you just how you could do something like that where it looks like it's floating when it's really not. All right, so I'm going to stop there with all three. Hopefully one of the things you're seeing, you see how fast I went through those today compared to the others? There are literally, with this group of files, aside from the green one, there are probably a million different variations that we could do. Just because of the tonal ranges, because of the light sources that I'm using, because of all the extreme white. So again, there's no rules, guys. If it looks visually interesting, it looks visually interesting. And I'll be honest, the bonus shot, that's my least favorite of the bunch, but it's okay. We'll come back to that. So for this guy here, let me just put in a little adjustment layer on there. I'm going to switch over to my pen tool. And since, eggs are not perfect, right, I'm going to go to my healing brush. And I see I got a little spot on the paper there. Take care of that. I'm going to take out some of these imperfections on the end of the egg because I really don't want those as part of the image. There's a little black dot over there. We'll get rid of that. See if there's any other spots that are bothering me here. Clean up this stuff at the end. Cool. Now I definitely want to do my dodge and burn layer. So that's my neutral gray layer. And we're going to go to the gradient tool, just like you've been seeing me do it all week now. And I'm going to pull down on the top, pull down on the bottom. This kind of further draws attention in. Boom. And that's where we're going to leave it. And then the other thing I might do here, I'm going to make a second layer. I want to be able to control these separately. I'm going to go to a brush tool, set it at about 15. Nice and big and soft. Not quite that big. Maybe like 500 or so pixels. I'm going to darken just this half of the egg. Right? Just right there. And a little bit more out there. A little more in there. And then blur all of that. Filter blur, Gaussian blur. Going to blur it about, no, it's not enough. Go about, there we go, 100. And then come back in here one more time, hit some of this. Blur it again. Yeah, there we go. Cool. So that one's done. Let's move on to the next one. Same thing here. We're going to go ahead and do a little bit of healing brush work to get rid of that little black spot that was on the paper and a couple imperfections on the egg. In this case, where I'm seeing a little bit of glowing light coming through, I actually like it with this color scheme. So I'm going to leave it here in this one, even though I took it out in the last shot. But we'll go ahead and we'll clean up some of these spots. Otherwise, I'm really digging this one. I love the colors. This reminds me of an image that I used to really admire back in the day when I was a kid, and I would get Popular Photography magazine, American Photography magazine, two photographers that used these colors a lot back then, and you should look these guys up. Their work It's just incredible. One, Peter Turner, just like it sounds, Peter Turner, Turner, incredible photographer. Back in the 1970s, he was doing things with Kodachrome film. He was getting color out of Kodachrome film that was just so unbelievable and unnatural. It was mind-blowing. And another guy that did this amazing color work back then was Eric Miola. So it's Eric, E-R-I-C, Miola, M-E-O-L-A. Check those guys out. If you don't know who those photographers are, you're really missing out. All right, so I'm like pretty much there on that image. Now, you know what I am going to do? I'm going to do, just for the sake of being a little bit anal here, okay? Whoops, let me go back to my original background layer. I'm going to select this line that's coming up here, and I'm going to go ahead and hit Filter, Liquify. See how it's got that little kink in it, right? So I'm just going to straighten it out a tad. Just a tad. It's not going to be like perfect razor sharp, but just a tad, because I'll be honest with you, that kink was bugging me, right? Just was. So there we go. So that image, done. Next one here. So let's see. This is interesting. Like, I'm liking it, but it needs a little something, something. So what I want to do here, I am going to open up a program oh, I know why it's not available. Sorry. I need to switch my image over to RGB. When I change it to black and white in Camera Raw, right, that basically made it a monochrome image, and it took the RGB out. I want to go back to RGB because now, it's still black and white, but now in filters, I can go to the Nik collection, and I can open up Silver Efex Pro, which is an amazing program for doing black and white imagery. It wants me to update. We'll do that later. And let's see, I'm not too worried about the presets, I don't think, but let's see what they've got in here that might... I gotta admit, that low key thing, that's kind of cool. Still not really what I was after. Not really digging the push process. Not so much the graduated either. So I'm going to just start out in a neutral spot here. But what I want to do is I want to play around a little bit with some of the tools. So the structure tool essentially is kind of like a micro contrast type feature that it's very similar to the clarity tool in Photoshop. It's going to create a little bit more contrast, and that's kind of what I'm after. I want to boost things here a little bit more and get a little bit more pop on this image. And let's see, amplify the blacks just a little bit. In fact, I wonder what happens if we go... Man, that seriously has an old school black and white vibe to it, but I'm actually going to bring it fairly high key, and we're going to zero out that. You can see I'm just trying some different sliders just to see where this is going to take me. There's no right or wrong with this at all. I'll be completely honest. The more that I'm playing with this image, not my favorite one, but that's okay. All right. Let's see there. Okay. So I'm just setting up the red filter. Well, no, it was already in black and white, so forget that. That's not going to do anything for us. So, and then the only thing I think I'm going to do is just really kind of soften that grain up a little bit, just so there's a bit of it there. We'll go back into Photoshop with the image, and let's see, let that render and everything. See, it gave it a little bit more pop, but now that I've done that, I definitely, for me, I want to take out the blemishes on the end of the egg, which the blemishes are just, it's light shining through, right, because the egg is translucent. So I'm just using the healing brush. I'm going to kind of blend them all down. It's not that they have to disappear completely. I just don't want them to be quite as defined as what they were. And I don't have any weird spots. So we're pretty good. I'm curious if we do a little bit of dodge and burn here. Let me bring the opacity down a bit more. And I'm going to start my line way off the image and pull in. Yeah, and then same thing. Start way off and pull in. That way it's going to come in slower. It's not going to be as aggressive. And then since I've got like the old school black and white thing going here, I think what I've got to do is do what we used to do back in the day where we do the heavy corner burns, right? We just like go with those lines and really burn it down. Yeah. That's it. The more I'm seeing this, you know, it's got a vibe. It's not my favorite shot, but it's kind of cool, right? And even same thing again. I'm going to hit that +2, and I'm going to burn that egg in just a bit more. There we go. Filter, blur, Gaussian blur. I don't need 100 on this one, just around 40. Boom, done. Next up, definitely my favorite of the day. And you know what? This image is just about finished. All I'm going to do here is I'm going to burn down this outside edge, burn down this upper corner a little bit, the top, this bottom corner, a little bit in there, and go to the brush. Oops, I don't want that on that same layer. Let's hit another +2, put that in there, boom, and then a little darker in the very center of the ball, so we're going to do just the ball here. All right, that's it. And filter, we can do the same Gaussian blur as the last image. That's it, there it goes. So that's that one. And now this one's got some blemishes. There was a side of the egg that did have a little blemish on it, and unfortunately, I kind of missed it. And it shows up pretty big in this shot. You can see it like right there. So I'll be honest, for the sake of time, I'm not going to kill myself on this one, right? But let's go ahead and we'll use clone stamp. Whoops, not very well there, Joe. Okay, now that I have that filled in, I'm going to go to my healing brush, blend it down a little bit more. Whoops, I caught the outside there. Okay, we'll get rid of these specks. Awesome, still a little bit there. See if we can get that cleaned up. Okay, better. Let's try a different approach to this here. Almost there. And this is, you know, part of this is being kind of really anal about details, gang. And that's what you have to be if you want to put out consistently good work. You just do, right? I'm going to go ahead and kind of copy that layer. I'm taking a bit of a shortcut here. I'm going to go back to liquify because now, whoops. Let me close that out. Let's put the image into RGB mode instead of grayscale like we did before. I don't want to flatten the image, right? Now do filter liquify, because now that I've done that little bit of retouching, I've got spots on that corner that don't look round. So I'm just going to smooth those out a little bit. A little too small, make it a little bigger. Okay, good. So this way, there you have it. So now in terms of the finishing on this one, let's go ahead, add a little bit more darkness on this outside, and I'm actually going to go in the other direction and do a little lightening on the egg, and this side right around the egg right there. There we go. Okay. Awesome. And then last but not least, our green egg mess here. So first things first, the fingers are bothering me like crazy because you can see the ring, you can see all this stuff. Whoops, wrong direction. So let's take that out. Good. So switch to black here. And we're going to burn these outsides down pretty heavy. And my goal with this, again, is just to make something that, you know, it's obviously looks nothing like what it really is. And that's kind of the whole idea behind this abstract concept, right? It's not about reality. It's not about, you know, what is it really? It's about what do people maybe think it is, right? So now that I've got that, it does indeed need a little bit of cleanup work, shall we say. So let's use the healing tool. First, I'm going to take that highlight off the ring up top there, and then I'm going to go through. These are all scratches and nicks that were on the filter. Right? I just grab, these are filters that I use all the time, and normally they're in front of a light. So, I mean, they're heavily nicked up and scratched, but when you put them in a situation where the camera is actually able to focus on them, well, then, you know, that stuff shows up, right? So now it's in my shot, and I want to get rid of it. So let's make this a little bit bigger. I'm going to go through and I want to take a lot of this texture out because I do want to have the feeling that this egg is floating when it's all said and done with. I don't want it to be obvious what's happening. Okay. Whoops. Hit the edge of the egg there. All right. And so there we have our floating egg. Okay. So let's back it up. Here we go. We've got our rare vertical shot from Joe of the blue egg with the orange. We have the glowing hot pink and blue. We have the old school grainy black and white egg in the school paper. We've got the fiery sun, which remember, this was the manila folder and the tungsten background. And then we have kind of more the traditional black and white. Remember, good black and white image. Pure white, pure black, all the grays in between. And then we have our floating egg for the trick shot. So my shot of the day, hands down, it is the sun. In part because I haven't used this color yet, so I'm excited to add a different color into the mix. And the other part is it's different. I think it's kind of cool. So your turn, gang. So remember, this week, it's the Nifty 50. I want to see you guys experiment with eggs at some point. But don't just show me a picture of an egg sitting on a table, right? Boring. So be creative. Do something with it that is unique and different and not obvious. And so no macro lenses this week. We're done with the macro. We're going to move on. We're working with other lenses. And if by chance you don't have a Nifty 50, pick a lens, but use that lens all week. Make it the lens that you use the most. But if you got the 50, use the 50. I want to try and stick with primes, okay? So once again, thank you all for your support. Thank you for following this challenge and for participating in this challenge. The link to my Facebook group for you to post your pictures, it is in the description below the video. So make sure you post them. Whatever you do, pick up that camera and go shoot something. Your best shot, it's your next shot. Adios, gang.